We are live streaming. Welcome to Transit Talk, Human Design Transits, real talk in real time. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Jess. We meet up about every 6 days to explore the current human design transits and how they're showing up in our lives. And we'd love for you to join us.
We're talking energy in the moment, what we're feeling, what we're noticing, and what the transits are stirring up inside us and all around us.
So whether you're joining us live or listening later, we're glad you're here.
Let's get into it. And we already have a couple people in the waiting room. I'm going to let in to join us. So anyway, so today what are your skills here? You're representing gate 16. What is that all about to you?
My skill.
Your skills? Which skills are we representing, Jess?
Skill that we representing today. I attempted to, not very skillfully, do a ballerina. And as you can see, the bun is like falling out here, but it's working, right?
Okay. Oh, tell me you're wearing a tutu.
I wish. I actually tried my 8-year-old's tutu. I tried to put it on and I was like,
Okay.
almost. I'm not quite an 8-year-old dyed.
Right? So I am representing gate 9, the gate of focus, and the inertia that happens when you are looking for the perfect thing to represent gate 9 focus energy, and you just can't find that perfect thing. So you choose to not get dressed. So I am in my robe in the inertia that happens when we are just stopped by the focusing on having to have it perfect. And I will have you know, I'm surprised you haven't commented yet, Jess. This is my summer robe. So I have that big brown robe we've discussed, and it's actually appeared on a different one that is so like not my vibe. But I do have this one that's very lightweight, has a butterfly, and this is for like summer weather when you don't need the big warm terry cloth teddy bear robe. So anyway, and I'm very excited. We already have 2 people on the Zoom with us, and we have the fabulous Carla Unger and Jahje, who was just on my podcast. So if you haven't listened, it dropped yesterday at 5 p.m. It was really good stuff. So thank you for joining us, ladies. And I feel like last week we had so much fun talking about the energies that like we ran out of time, right?
Yeah.
So are you ready to break out your skills and start unpacking gate 16, Jess?
My attempt at skills, right? So I don't have this energy defined in my chart, so it's not consistent, as you can see.
But it's where you get to become wise, right?
The wisdom of the skills. So let's take a look if I can share.
And meanwhile, I'm going to check in the group to make sure we are actually streaming the way I think we are.
Perfect. So as you can see here, we've got our sun. We are in gate 16 right now, which is the gate of enthusiasm, also gate of skill. So this is right here in our chart. That is our throat. This is manifestation. This is where we speak out. This is where the energy comes through. Reminder, it comes through your head, comes through your root, moves through your body, comes out through your throat. And so we've got 16 right here. We've also got gate 9, which is our earth. And we're looking at that down here in the sacral center, the focus.
Whoops, that reminds me a lot of your chart, Jahje. She has the 35-36 channel defined with a hanging gate 12. So that part I know is, and then the rest of everything is open, right? So that part was very.
Well, and I'm my birthday, I'm a Gemini. So we're in my season, and that is very close to my chart, except for in my chart, I have the gate 48. So right now I'm hooking into 16, and I have a gate 52 in my moon. So I'm hooking into 9. And I was just looking at my chart on transit. I'm single definition with the sacral defined. So like I woke up this morning with like ready to go energy.
Right. Oh, I didn't look at my my connection today. I was looking at the whole thing, but I did not look at how it's connecting with me.
I love that. I love when you get a single definition as a triple split and it's suddenly like, oh, everything's talking, it's flowing, it's moving, let's guess. What?
Me too. I am also single definition triple split, right? I mean, single definition right now on my normal triple split. But Jahje is single definition normally because she only has one channel. So
I am, but
yeah,
I got those two. So I'm like single definition with like zero power.
right?
You're like that power.
Well, no,
Emotional energy.
faster, but
Emotional energy is super powerful. Do not underestimate.
no, I'm joking about the not power. I am definitely powered by emotions.
You are a powerful being. Hello, Lisa. So, Carla, did you have this chart, either of these energies defined in your chart?
I have the 16,
Okay. You bring
not the 9, but I have a 16. But I'm also a triple split that is single definition right now with the transits. So that's fun.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, that is fun. What about you, Lisa? Do you have the 16 or 9 defined in your chart?
I am looking right now.
Okay. No rush. I still realize I'm still not checking. It looks like we're live. Somebody liked it. I just want to find it so I can watch the comments.
And actually, Jahje, when's your actual birthday?
June 17th.
June 17th.
Yes.
Okay.
We're
Yeah, we
coming
were chatting about that the other day, and we're like, how fun to start like celebrating people's birthdays, especially, you know, with the transits to see, you know, what's like innately in your chart. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I always take the day off to like contemplate, although it's always the last day of school for my kids. So I get half the day.
Mm. Well, you know, the thing that's really interesting as I'm watching things now with people the concept of the solar return, that's often not on our actual birthday. So there are days that it could be your birthday and you can look, and especially like I'm a 6 line. So there are some times where we've already moved out of that gate 14, gate 8 energy that my 6 line is in, and we're already in that 3420 energy again. So like, because we're 6 months out for my birthday, we just had that energy in the past. But and so like paying attention to the day that's actually your solar return also. And people are like, how does that happen? And that's because of that whole wobble thing of how the earth doesn't actually move in exactly the same time that
It's got its own time because it's a big old ball of energy. And it's like, this calendar thing is not for me.
Right. They were like, I will not be governed by your human rules.
Exactly.
For
Fun. Okay.
Sharon says, good morning, ladies. Good morning, Sharon. So glad to have you with us. Feel free to hop into the Zoom if you'd like to join us here live.
So do you want to start talking about gate 16?
Yes. Yes, I would love to talk about 16. So gate 16 is the gate of skills. And so today I chose to embody the ballerina because this energy is not necessarily something like you're born and you're like, I have these skills. Look at all these things I can do. It's something that like develops over time. And so that really speaks to me as like that ballerina energy, how much work those ballerinas put into their craft, their masterpiece, their expression of who they are through that constant repetition, that constant practice, you know, putting in the work to find that thing. But you can always tell with a ballerina, you know, when you go and you watch a dance and you can see someone that's so beautifully expressing and so deeply in the music, in the moves, right? Deeply connected in with it, that is their thing. And sometimes you see dancers and they're like really, really good dancers, but they don't have that piece, that connection that it's like, oh, it's just like flowing through them so natural. So that's how that really speaks to me again with that piece of like repetition. And I was telling you the other day, I was telling Kathy, I was like, this one is like the crux of my life because for me, there's this quiz you can take and it's like, what are the different things that sabotage you? So for me, one of them is the restless. And so what that looks like is you start something over here and you start digging your well. And then you come over here and you get excited and you start digging another well and you start doing all these things all over the place instead of really anchoring in and asking yourself, like, what is this well? Which is also interesting because the other side for the channel for the 16 is the 48, which is the well, which is the depth. So what is this well in your energy you're feeling right now? What is this thing that you really want to connect into and where you want to dig? rather than being like all over the place, to find that repetition, to be able to step into that, to find those skills.
Yeah, and that's where that gate 9 is so helpful, to be grounded in where to focus. Because I think it can go either way. Like, it can go where you're working on all these different skills, trying all these different things, or you can like be focusing on being a ballerina, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where you're like, oh, this is really not my thing, but it's been my thing. I've invested in it so long. I'm afraid to start the new thing because I'm not going to be able to, I don't know how to make that shift. I don't know how to be perfect in this new skill that I want to explore. So I stay with the old thing, even though it's no longer satisfying, which feels like what we talked about on your podcast, on the podcast, Jahje, when we talked about you, like, right, with your business.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, I know this energy well.
if you want to tell a quick little summary of that, I think that would be
Yeah.
an example.
Well, and I think it also, shows up in terms of how we're conditioned too, because we're taught not to give up on things. And we're taught to, like, if you started, like, for instance, on the podcast, I shared that I had created an incredibly successful business that I'd run for almost 14 years, and the energy just wasn't there anymore. And everybody was telling me that it was crazy to shut it down. And I kept listening to other people. And it was when I finally got really focused in on what was calling my energy forward, which was not this business, and decided to essentially become, sovereign. And I had ridden my emotional wave for 2 years at that point because I have emotional authority. And I was just like, no, I'm just closing this business. And it was so, I went from literally, like, I was having panic attacks, anxiety, all this stuff about the business for almost 2 years. When I just made that decision, my entire body energy shifted. I was so joyful. I was so excited. And you'd think to be shutting down a business that, like, was profitable and was still making money would be panic inducing, to, like, leap into nothing. But I was like, oh no, this is what I've been wanting to do. And what's really funny is I shut down my business almost 2 years ago this time of year, when we were in the same sort of energy. And it was really that focused energy of, I knew where I wanted to go next with my skills and my application. And so, yeah, I just had to trust myself instead of all the other voices.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It was a really great share in the podcast. So shameless plug here, Real Human Design Stories, episode 78, Jahje Ives, on all your favorite podcast platforms and YouTube. But I also want to say we're also in this layered on effect of that gate 16, because the new moon happened last night in that gate 16 energy as well. So setting our intentions on our skill, on what skills we want to focus on, and doing that sort of thing. So it's interesting to think that you were able to really get intentional about doing this at this same time of year. And I'm wondering if the new moon happened in the same gate. I don't know if the moon cycles always hit in the same gates, because I would imagine
So
that's
fast,
insane.
I'm not
Do
sure.
they?
Now I want to go
Carla?
back and look it up.
Yeah. Carla, do you know, are they always in the same gates each year?
So, well, yes, it'll be because it's a sun moon,
Right.
like if it's a new moon or a full moon, it's still going to be the sun and the moon in the same gate.
Right.
But where it's happening as far as the date is
That's what I
concerned,
meant. Is it going to be? Will it be in gate 16? Yeah, I know the new moon's always in the same gate as the sun.
Mhm.
And the full moon's always in the same gate as the earth when they happen. But I don't know if the cycles land in the same gates each year. So, like, will the Gemini new moon be one gate off, one gate different next year? I'd have to go look at that. Maybe
Yeah, I don't
could
think
think comments.
I think it would change, but not like every year. It would have to be in alignment with like the actual lines. Like it has to move through the hexagram to be able to shift into a different gate. So I'm not sure.
It would be interesting I would be looking at that transit from when you did that, Jahje, because I would just have to know. My open head would be like, right. I want to know.
Well, first off, want to celebrate you. That's so exciting. Jahje, 2 years celebrating. Like, look where you are right now, right? Yeah, that's amazing. And, really trusting in yourself, because that's hard. That is so, 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 so hard, especially when you build an identity around something and that's how you've been doing it. So to make that shift and to really, really anchor in the fact that you felt so much joy on the other side, where it's like, this is the right thing and it gets to be joyful now and I get to enjoy it.
Yeah. And I also say it's like when your life is feeling heavy, it's usually because you're trying to force yourself to be in that box and be in that container that's no longer you. So, yeah, scary as heck, but just uh, completely the right thing to do.
Yeah, and you're beautiful. Her first business was an art business, and your new business is definitely becoming an art business, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an artist through and through, and no matter what I do, but yeah, human design and art seems to be,
Oh, yeah.
it
And
just
your
finds
cards
me.
are beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. If you wanted to share real quick with everybody about like your cards that you do for human.
Which I'm like, I still have them over on my desk from talking to Kathy, but yeah, no, I'm doing illustrations of the 64 gates as embodied portraits of people because it started, and I talk about this all about on the podcast that Kathy and I just did.
Right.
But I found that that's the aspect of human design that I love, but it's so complicated and I love how it shows up in our lives. And so I started finding people who had the channel, illustrating them, interviewing them, and then I'm creating the 64 Gates card deck because other people were like, I want that too. And I was like, oh, okay. Which is how things come through as creative urges. I create them for myself and then people are like, oh, I want that too.
Right.
Amazing. And it's back to that playful energy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we love doing here because it's like, you learn about human design, you learn about the knowledge, but how do you experience it? How do you play with it? How do you take it and make something fun? So yeah, love your cards.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cool. So do we want to go through the lines of gate 16?
Yeah,
Or do you wanna
absolutely.
talk
Just
more?
wanted to ask, yeah, Carla, if you have anything as well with gate 16, how do you experience it? And how are you experiencing it right now? And how do you feel about the ballerina? Does it and the crazy red lipstick? I have to admit, there was like a piece of me that was like, oh, that's bright.
It's great though. It sets your smile off. So good. 16 is interesting for me. It's unconscious in my design. It's I want to say that it is my Venus. Is that right? I don't know. I so here's what I'm starting to learn about my 16. Both of my parents had the 9. And this is something I've actually started just kind of like tracking in general when I'm thinking about my own chart, when I'm working with other people's charts. Looking at like the conditioning aspect of the polarity gate from like parents specifically, but also people that are close to you. So it could be like in relationship if it's been a long-term relationship. But both of my parents have the 9-3, which is the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? And so the way that I've experienced my 16, which is pointing at an undefined spleen, I really hesitate to like believe, and I'm a 2-4, so I really hesitate to like believe in other people telling me, you're so good at this, you're so good at this, like you should do this, you should do that, right? Because I'm just like, I feel inadequate with it. I need to like really, it needs to be consciously in my awareness that I am good at that thing. And a lot of times it takes something breaking the camel's back, right? Something that's just like actually and really allows for me to like trust in my skills and knowing that I do have the depth of what is required to be able to show up with it. So yeah, it's been really interesting because it definitely takes that. It takes like reaching a precipice where I need to like really feel the pressure, right, from that format gate of like, actually, you really are okay. You really can like move forward with this thing. So, and I think the ballerina suits perfectly. Yeah, that's what I got.
Oh, that's beautiful. And then even right here, I'm just going to go ahead and share this. I'm going to pressure. Here is Carla's amazing She does all the different, like the way you bring human design and essential oils together is just so beautiful, and it's been so potent in my life. So this is the cycle support for the new moon. She does different ones for the moon cycles, and then also for the biggest one for me was the body and the mind roller, like really helping me step into and work with the different aspects, and that's made from specifically your chart, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I made the new moon, the cycle we're in, yesterday morning, and I shared a little bit on my stories and Instagram about it. Wanted to just like share what was in it. But it was kind of crazy because like my process with that, I do like notes on like what's happening with the new moon cycle first, and then I think about the essential oils that like just kind of come to mind as far as like what resonates with that kind of energetic frequency. And then I go smell it together. So like I have no idea what it's gonna smell like until I'm like putting it all together. And then I'm just like, oh yeah. Yesterday I started crying. I put it together and I instantly started crying and was just like, wow, like overwhelmed with this, like, actually, this smells amazing, and it's like triggering something from within me that's helping me to recognize like I have everything I need. Do you know that song from Trevor Hall, I Have Everything I Need? That's exactly what, like, came in when I was, like, smelling it. So, anyway, yeah, there's that.
I'm just
Wow,
going to put
that's
a
beautiful.
request in there real quick when you start your monthly subscriptions for the new moon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great idea. Are you doing something like that? Because I have that one you did once.
For March, do you like that one? I'm so
I
curious,
love that
Kathy.
one. You sent me one, and there was some weird glitch that came and it came late, remember? And so it came right as the moon was shifting. And I was like, because we talked about it way after the new moon. And it's nothing against anything you did, but I just got it late, and I still love it. And there are a lot of times I'm just like, I don't know what it's going to do with this moon's energy, but I just like it.
I loved that one specifically because there were so many sacral gates, and so I felt like the blend itself was gonna be helpful in general for non-sacral beings.
Oh, that's
Like,
probably why I like it so much. Yeah.
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 Anyway,
Well, that you
yeah.
definitely have the skills in that area for sure. So
100%.
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so do we want to talk about the lines of gate 16?
Absolutely. Okay. So 16, I'll do the book and you want to do Chaitan?
Yeah, that's how
Perfect.
we
So we got, and if anybody wants to add anything as we're going through, Lisa, was there anything you wanted to share about any of the gates? Anything you wanted to add about?
I'm just sitting here trying to reground myself after a whirlwind of a week where I have moved house.
Wow.
Place that I didn't last Monday, I only found out about, and we moved on Saturday.
What?
And we were not packed. So at the moment,
Good thing you had that 2034 transit to give you all that power, right?
I needed something because I didn't stress about it. I kept saying that no matter what happens by tomorrow, it will all be over. And I'm just sitting here thinking, well, the universe has my back because I saw a lot of places and I didn't like any of them. And as soon as I saw this place, I absolutely loved it. And then we had to move heaven and earth to get in. Otherwise, the landlord was going to try and go with somebody else. So it's just like, yeah, this is the first thing I have done, the first break I have taken from unpacking boxes. So if I look a little spacey and a little off and a little not here, it's because I'm doing my best. But
We are
it's
honored that you chose
it's a
to spend
lot.
your time with us in this situation. But isn't that such the perfect analogy of how life is? We stress and we worry about not finding the right thing. And imagine if you had settled and taken one of those other places that weren't quite right. And then, yes, this was hard, but when the right things happen, you can move heaven and earth to make it happen, right? To respond in the way that needs to for it to be done. And now you can use all your focus and skills to unpack and refine and put everything in the right places to make your energy of your home perfect, right? You're still unpacking, you said?
I'm still unpacking.
You just got there. So awesome. So
That.
this is great energy for unpacking because Gate 16. What is it called in this book?
Line 1 is delusion. So Jahje said, I love this. It looks like you were in the now of 2034, Lisa, to get it done. Absolutely. And celebrating you. That's amazing that you trusted, you found the place, like how beautifully that unfolded. And we're so honored to have you here with us right now because, you've got a lot going on. So thank you for being here with us. We love having you here. And
I'm going to preface this because I just saw what line 1 is. And the way I said this is the great energy, it's in the way Shaitan describes it. The way that
okay. Yeah, do
is
it.
not what I was reading when I was saying, oh, this is the great energy to do it. And that's why I love looking at more than one approach to things. So anyway, Roz, go ahead. You were saying?
Yeah. Line 1 is delusion.
Yeah. So in it's a false enthusiasm according to Ra, and it's actually paying attention. Enthusiasm can be aligned to the real needs of the moment or not, which feels very different, right? It acknowledges the place for that false enthusiasm, but it also says it can be aligned to the real needs of the moment, right? So that paying attention feels like it's a really good place to focus your skills. And having a clear grasp of what is confronting you requires presence, interest, and detachment. So, and that feels like a good place to be as you're unpacking, but delusion not.
Delusion, to me, that speaks to like that foundational energy of the one when you're starting something, that it does take that petition. It does take that,
Right.
almost with the ballerina stepping in and being like, I'm going to be the best ballerina. And that delusional, like it takes work, right? It takes almost like unpacking, right?
Right.
It's going to take a process to get there, but you've got it. You can get there, right? Just going through those pieces. Right. Sometimes there's that monotony to it, but it's you can get there. So line 2 is the cynic.
So Shaitan calls it being watchful. You consider life objectively and comment accordingly. You have the ability to see through the merits of any scheme, both neutrally and critically. And the sun is actually exalted in line 2. So that will be later tonight. We'll be hitting later this afternoon, probably. Not that far away. You have natural skill to judge any situation impartially, regardless of what others say. So that feels like the energy Jahje was talking about when she's like, no, I know I need to be done with this business, right? So, and I also want to add too, as we're looking at these, I just noticed that line 1 and line 2 have some things with Mercury, and later this week, Mercury is going to be entering Gate 16. I think it's tomorrow, actually. I wrote it down and it's in my transit report. I think it's tomorrow. So just be aware that for line 1, Mercury is in detriment when it says you tend to make declarations on behalf of other people that cannot easily be substantiated. So that's interesting. And line 2, Mercury is in detriment. It says you express a pointed analysis that might easily dampen other people's excitement. Oh, I know that energy. Right? When you're like all excited about something, I still, do you ever do that? I don't know. I'm the kind of person who sometimes I'll say something in the moment and then like for years I'll think, why did I tell? I had a friend who was all excited about getting a new sewing machine and I just like stepped on it and I was like, yeah. And then until you mess up the third project that you spent $50 on material for and then throw it in the corner and then never use it again. Because I was having a memory of my skills, right? And my trying to do that. And I totally squashed her enthusiasm. So like that just came up to me and like that was years ago. I still think about that. I was like, sorry, Michelle. I don't know why I said that.
It was something that needed to come up in you. And that's kind of, I think, because my life is like a moving celebration. When I notice those things coming up, it's being able to have that duality of like, I get to be super excited, but also hold like where you are in the feeling of it and what came up for you. Because sometimes that enthusiasm can kind of be like, I see you're so excited, but like I'm sitting in something different. And that's, there is a perfection to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So line 3.
Line 3, independent.
So reforming, delight comes in winning your own accomplishments. There is a fine line between needing encouragement from outside and going it alone. So, and those, none of the planets are being that's the detriments don't apply here. So line 4,
The leader.
guiding. Confidence in dealing with life's problems draws others to your side. It's easy for you to give support and recognition to others, or you might ignore their offerings. So remember, because everything's a polarity, right? So it's either easy or you might just ignore it completely. So, and then line 5,
My favorite.
what's it called? The ballerina? Let me look.
Okay.
I know.
Like,
Okay.
can we play? Who wants to guess? What is the opposite of a ballerina? Okay, blue. I didn't Carla know the accent. This is her favorite one too. Okay. I'm gonna give you clues. So blue. Well, it's okay, maybe it's the opposite of blue. I don't know. Somehow in my mind it feels like the opposite of blue. And if you think about a ballerina, very well put together. I mean, this fun's not doing it, but hair slicked back, nicely done, very like formal and proper. The opposite energy of this one. And very hairy.
It's so different of a concept. So like to call it opposite feels
Opposite. Yeah. Okay.
right.
Yes. Christmas time, right? Gets so much enthusiasm. And what is the nemesis of Christmas enthusiasm?
Okay, that was much better.
Yes, exactly. So
Grinch.
The Grinch.
It's Grinch.
So this, it's the refusal to share in the enthusiasm, right? That's what the Grinch is. But tactically, from color theory, blue and green are not opposites. I would have to think what's opposite on the wheel. Is it blue and red that are opposites? I don't know. One of my artist friends.
Blue and red.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. So
Sorry, I was
so,
laughing.
and actually it's actually like adjacent because it becomes between the green and yellow, right? The yellow.
Blue and orange are complements. Blue and red make purple. Blue and orange make brown.
Yeah.
But so
isn't
definitely
on the
describe
wheel-
that.
On the wheel isn't blue next to green? Like unless you get into exactly. The yellow, right?
So not opposite at all.
I don't know. But that's okay. You're a pretty ballerina. It's like
I got so excited to play with it.
right? Okay, so Shaitan calls it resisting, an unwillingness to encourage yourself or others to move on in life. You recognize potentials, but tend to avoid endorsing them if you consider them unattainable. Ooh, now I want to go look at someone. I always have someone I know where I'm like, ooh, I wonder if their gate 16 is in this line because I don't remember the line, and I have a person in mind that I have to go check.
So I have somebody that I think everybody has heard of. Carolyn Miss.
Yes.
Yes, right? The author, speaker. When you listen to her speak, I've read so many of her books, and then I decided one day to listen to an audiobook. And it was the first time I'd ever heard her voice. And I was like, wow. It was just so impressionable. And I was like, I wonder what her Mercury is. And it's the Grinch. It's 16.5. And it just got me because I was like, yes, that totally makes sense because the way that she like delivers the message live is very like cynical and like she's a third line 3-5, but she's got this like Grinch energy and like, oh, you think you want this, but you're not doing the work. So like da 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 da. It was a really great way of being able to like recognize that frequency. So
Perfect.
I just peeked, and the person I was thinking of actually has gate 16, line 6. That's interesting. What did I read? Oh, I didn't read 16.5 from Chaitanya. He calls it resisting, an unwillingness to encourage yourself or others to move on in life. You recognize potentials, but tend to avoid endorsing them if you consider them unattainable. Did I already read that? I did. See, sorry. Open it.
It's perfect. And just, I really want to reiterate here that both are perfect. Like there's nothing wrong or right or wrong with any of them, right? That we need all forms of every like type of energy that there's, don't look at the Grinch. I mean, I mean, maybe you look at the word and you're like, what does this mean? But how does this show up for you? And knowing it's a beautiful energy, that's a correct energy for you to have in how you're here to move through the world, right? There's no like better or worse or in any of these, like really coming back to and loving yourself exactly as who you are and potentially looking at like, is this a part of me that maybe I haven't allowed to shine? Because, it's a very, in its own way, it's a beautiful, beautiful, like potent energy.
Yeah. So line 6.
Mhm. Line 6 is gullibility.
Okay. So he doesn't have any expansion. Oh no, he does say the susceptibility to propaganda. Okay. And Chaitan calls it reassessing, objective evaluation of realistic goals. You either see things as they are or get flustered by others' expectations and lose clarity. Wow. Okay. So I was just thinking about that in relationship to the person that I was thinking of. So the fluster, the other people's expectations, that feels kind of also makes me think of how that kind of impacted you, Jahje, like the whole idea of what people think we should do, right? With our skills, how other people, um, can impact where we go with that feels really profound. So, and I just want to go back and remind people that in gate 16, the shadow is indifference. So it's got that gullible or self-deluded spectrum that can show up as, but it's the versatility that's the gift, and then actually the mastery itself is the highest thing. So it feels like we're saying the mastery is the mastery, but it's the highest expression. So when you find yourself being in this place of like, I don't care, I'll just do whatever people want me to do and will make them happy, and I'll just go with the flow, and I'll continue to kid myself and say that I can be happy doing this or whatever. Instead, we look to the gift of, okay, where can I be more versatile with these skills? How can I use my skills in a new and more responsive way that responds to my own creative flow, my own, response, and then really find the mastery that comes from the growth that is involved there. And I feel like that is really what Jess and I had this great sounding board session on Saturday, where she really held such wonderful space for me as I was processing some things about the podcast going forward and some of the things that I wanted to do. And I feel like it really was talking, even though we weren't in that transit yet, we were talking about the versatility of what are the ways that I can take what I love about this and change things up in new and exciting ways that really make it feel fresh and different, that honor what's good in it, but don't keep me from growing and evolving. And it was a really beautiful conversation, but I noticed that my response was to get very much in the details, which moves us into gate 9, right? So, and that feels really, that this is, the gate of details, the gate of focus. It's convergence is what quantum human design calls it, right? It's where everything comes together. And, Chaitan says an inherent fascination to examine anything and everything, whether it brings ultimate satisfaction or not, right? And I have this as my Mercury. So so it's interesting because this is talking about gate 9 for me, and it's Mercury, but Mercury is moving into this gate 16 energy. Plus Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So there's all this Mercury stuff happening for me, which is all about communication. And isn't that interesting that this is the time that I'm talking about completely changing up how I do my podcast and things, right? And being able to sit with the details coming into focus as they will, and not getting into this negative energy the shadow energy of inertia that comes when we don't have it all perfectly in focus yet, but I can stay determined on the next applied thing, right? So, and then I will become invincible. Artistry, right? Invincible.
Yeah, you're ready, invincible. Yeah. Yes, I love that.
I wanted really badly to be able to show up at like a Wonder Woman outfit or anything, but I just didn't have the details, the things to put that together in the time since I'm thinking.
Wonder Woman.
Nothing, a Wonder Woman costume coming in, right?
Wonder Woman. Oh, we can do a superhero one.
I'm going to create my own Chatty Cathy superhero costume, maybe. I just have to have it all come into place. There's a guy I follow on Instagram, and I can't remember his name, but some of you might follow him. But he is always on roller skates in a pink suit, and he has like a disco ball helmet. Have you ever seen him? He has like a helmet he wears that is a disco ball, and he's like in all these different places and just giving you all this like, love, self-love kind of thing as he's roller skating around. And it's how he personally combated his own anxiety and depression by just really putting himself out there. And I just love the vibe of it. So I'm taking inspiration from all these different things, but I'll find my own superhero at some point. So I'm sure it will incorporate that disco ball little headband that I bought in Florida.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
So,
line
quick.
1 before we run out of time.
Yeah. So Sharon said she has 16.6. So if you want to share your experience of that and how that shows up for you in the chat or circle back around to that, we'd love to hear how your 16.6 is showing up for you. And also where is it in your chart too? So I think it just makes such a big difference when it's conscious versus unconscious. And obviously like the flavoring of like where it is in the chart. And then another piece, like exactly what you were sharing about with, kind of discovering your new messaging and discovering like what that piece is, the gate 16 energy, the like verbiage from it, because they each have like a, I believe, I know, for the 16, it's I experiment, right? So like there's that experimental energy to it, that playful energy in it, which I think now I'm noticing I'm already playful, but I feel like an extra piece of like playful in this 16 energy. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, but are we good to move to gate 9? I'm pretty good. Okay. So focusing intently so that all the relevant features of our lives are honored at all times in all endeavors is the overall thing that Chaitan says. And so gate line 1 in traditional human design is what, Jess?
Sensibility.
Sensibility. So he calls it recommencing. And is that a word? Recommencing it is. I mean, I understand what commencing means. I've just never heard recommencing.
Yeah.
So I guess beginning again and continually re-engaging with life from a sense of surety. And you either embrace life's essential details or get frustrated by treating them as problems. Ooh, okay. And line 2.
Line 2 is misery loves company.
Oh, that's a fun line. Inclusion. The energy to include and be included. Your compulsion to collaborate will enhance or distract you from attaining your goals. Interesting. Okay. So, and then line 3.
So yeah, this is the one that Carla was chatting about before. The 9 line 3 is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Oh, okay. So he calls it overlooking, missing that one small but essential detail. Stay focused. Being distracted, you can lose your focus for relevant details or end up fixating over trivia. And the earth is exalted in this, and it says, doggedly proceeding when you might be better off regrouping and reviewing. So yeah, when you keep going, even though things have told you kind of, that you need to stop, kind of like, I know Jahje had to jump off. She had a client call, but she had described that energy perfectly when she talked about knowing the energy wasn't there, but for a while she kept going because people were encouraging her to stick with something she didn't have the energy for anymore. So, okay, so line 4,
Dedication.
being dependable, staying present and focused despite distractions. Staying true to your intent or passing over important details determines your influence in life. Okay. And then line 5 is where my Mercury is. So this is my Mercury placement.
Oh, this is interesting. Faith.
Faith. Okay. Unquestioning. Accomplishment comes through trust and adherence to details. That sounds like radical self-trust,
Right?
right? Accepting life's bounty or doubting your needs are met affects your capacity to be fulfilled. And the detriment here is the earth, which is a lack of strength to trust yourself, aims you towards a growing dissatisfaction in life. So that's an energy we're all, prone to feel when we hit line 5. That's not the detriment that, my Mercury gate is not in that detriment. But this, I feel this so much, how I look at the details, the way I frame the things has such an impact on my satisfaction in life. Hugely, hugely so. And there have been so many times where I've just shifted the way I look at something and it's changed everything. Now, does that mean that I could always stay shifted? Sometimes I got to go back and shift again, and that becomes its own skill, right? That ability to shift your focus. And sometimes this actual ability is something that actually makes certain people in my life angry sometimes. And they're like, it's not all rainbows, right? But when I can shift it to be a rainbow, it's much easier to get through the storm, right? When I can look at the rainbow afterwards instead of, the puddles and the things that got beat down by the wind or whatever. It just makes it easier for me to move on. And it really is that energy of radical self-trust. So
So important. I mean, the way you experience something, and that's like a pivotal piece in positive intelligence where it's like you find the gift. And it's like, yes, I just got splashed by the puddle. Like, yes, this happened. And you don't just go, oh, it didn't happen, right? But like going, this happened. And then what's the gift in it? Well, now I can jump in all the puddles. I'm wet already. Or like whatever the thing is, like how do you find that gift? And that's so, so important because you're moving through the same thing, but your perception and your feeling of it is what makes all the difference in the world, which is, again, so interesting now because something you always talk about is gratitude, right? And helping you shift. And that's line 6. So it's like leaning into that energy, like connecting in with that to find that piece of gratitude.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, oh, perfection.
Right? So yeah, and Shaitan calls it being grateful also. So the focus is clear in line 6. The joy and intelligence to celebrate at every opportunity. By degree, all pressing issues are handled, giving you the space for celebration and relaxation. So yeah, it's really beautiful energy. And something good to point out too is we have I'd have to go look at the date, but soon. I want to say, actually, I think tonight, overnight, we have gate 52 defined by the moon. So we have that full channel of the 952. So it's always interesting when stuff like that happens overnight to notice how you sleep. And so will that format energy of being able to know where to focus and all of that, is that going to be something that keeps you up at night, or is it something that's going to process in you in your dreams and in your restorative sleep in a way that you'll wake up with these things? And so it'll just be interesting. Here in the United States, I should say, it's happening overnight. It might be the early morning, if you're like, for you, Lisa, like you're 6 hours ahead, right?
29th is what it says.
Pardon me?
5 ahead of Eastern.
Okay. So it's possible to be the wee hours of the morning. I'd have to go look at what time it is, because I don't remember that part. But I do know it was overnight. And then then the moon goes into gate 39 for however many hours it is. Is it like the moon is, I think, like 6 or 8 hours a day, something 5 to 6. What is it, Carla? I know you'll know.
About 9
About 9?
9
Oh,
hours. Yeah.
okay. All right. I knew it was like we get 3 different gates, and I was like, is that, Okay. So we have gate 39 that comes right after that, and then we go into getting gate 53, which connects with something that's already activated that I'm not thinking of. So we're going to get the other format gate. The 2 collective format gates happen within, or not gates, channels happen within a 24-hour period.
42 is, and that's where Venus is right now.
So Venus will connect with the moon on
Or
at
53.
that point, perfect, with 53. And so it'll be interesting because that'll happen 9 hours later, and for the next 9 hours, all in a 24-hour period. So it's just interesting to watch that, and notice what that feels like when it comes through, because all of this energy is not meant to make our decisions for us, or to for us to get caught up in that energy and then just make a decision in a response, because they're both going to be responsive energy, root pressure. So especially if you have an undefined sacral and an undefined root, you could unknowingly just make decisions and react and do things out of that pressure that you feel in those moments that aren't necessarily aligned with your true path, right? Through your strategy and authority. And so I feel like it's really helpful to be aware of that. And the other thing we didn't even talk about that I want to touch on, and I do want to give you an opportunity to do this, but I just want to also to respond to that. But I also want to touch on the fact that right now we're in this really strong energy. I'm totally distracted by a goofy squirrel hanging off a tree and outside my window. I was like, oh, what the hell are you doing? How it's see my face? I was like, what? Anyway, but Saturn on Sunday moved into Aries. Now, it did not shift gates for us, but it moved into Aries for the first time since like 1996. And I can't help but think about the fact that that's the year I got married. So when you think about the energy that you were experiencing in 1996 and the things that were shifting for you and all of the changes, it's interesting to look at how all of that is impacting you, because I think it's in gate 25. So this is for me, that's a long-term transit that's giving me a connection between my splits. It's connecting with my gate 51 and connecting my splits. So it's interesting because when I had my relationship reading with Carla Eastwood after the whole Austin thing, she talked about how she felt that because that's a connection that my husband and I should have, that electromagnetic connection. And we have like 8 electromagnetics, but she was very focused on that as being the defining channel in our relationship. And it's interesting that we got married at a time when it was also defined for me. So I don't know. That's just
essentially
processing.
because you're feeling it around you too. That's cool.
Yeah.
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 Ooh.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love looking at these transits. It's been so expansive for my own personal experiment to look at these things and see how they're impacting. And I'm wondering if anybody else has anything that they're feeling right now that they want to share before we wrap things up. That wasn't a sacral question, I guess. So does anybody have something they want to share? No.
So I'm just thinking about the move.
Mhm.
And you know what? I have 2551. Just want to watch it. It was always going to be a quick shock that got me moving. It was never going to be anything that was like long. I mean, yeah, the whole process has been long and drawn out, but the catalyst, the thing of finding the place was never going to be like, oh, I like that. Let's see if, and all of that. It was going to be, nope. You like it? Right. Get moving. Because the rest of this is going on long enough. Because my last year and big part of this year has been like a shit year. And it just feels like now the pipes are cleared.
Mm.
I didn't have the energy to like run my business or anything last year. I was just like, I was in a real funk. And no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't get out of it. So I just took it as like a period of rest, that I was meant to be in my resting and stop trying to force things. And at the same time, the back of my brain's going, hurry the fuck up,
Right?
because this is annoying. And now that this happened, it's almost, it's like the plumber has come and just flushed the pipes, right? And I don't have the physical energy yet, because I have to admit that right now my glutes hurt from bending down and picking up and bending down and picking stuff up. Great for them. But at the same time, I crawl into bed at night and take a painkiller, because it's just like enough. But as soon as that part comes back, all the other, my mental, my emotional, everything just feels like it's cooking with gas at the moment. And it's just like the physical just needs to catch up. But I did get like my first full night's sleep for a long, and I mean long time, for over a year. And it was it felt really good to wake up, but emotionally I could do it, but physically, I think it was yesterday. I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning and fell back asleep at 6:30 until 10:30. And I never sleep till 10:30. But I felt so refreshed after having done that. But it's like
Yeah.
I try and keep up with the transits every week. And like the last week and a half, the last two have just completely passed me by. Didn't we just get out of the gate of the now or something?
Yeah. Last week was the 23rd.
That was my whole week. That was my week.
Yeah.
This is what is happening right now, and this is what you need to concentrate on. But I didn't get the chance to study them in depth the way I normally do. So when I saw this come up, I was like, let me go to this. Let me try and keep my focus. And you know what? On my bed, I know I still owe you a Tigger photo, Tigger in his Tigger pajamas. But I'll show you something that's on my bed right now.
You'll have to describe it for those who might be listening on podcast later. Oh my God, he's so cute. He's pink.
It's a Pink Panther.
He's the Pink Panther. Yeah, that's not
my Pink Panther. I've had him since I was 12. He represents how tired I am. He's just laying on the top of the bedpost, just reminding me of how tired I am. I have Elmo in the living room, and I don't know where the Pink Panther is still packed. And I'm sorry,
energy's gone.
Still packed.
The energy's gone.
I will put a picture in the group as soon as I find Tigger.
Okay. Unpack
in his Tigger pajamas.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. Carla, do you have any closing words you want to share with us? I'm excited about learning more about you doing a membership with oils, just so you know.
I mean, it's so, yeah, that feels good. I need to know what that looks like. Because I do have it available to purchase, but yeah, a membership would be cool, because I mean, there's always going to be another new moon, so
it's like
that would be a really fun thing to think about.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. This was fun, everybody. Any closing words, Jess Tilly?
I think, and just encouraging people to go, it's okay to get it wrong. In this energy right now, you get to experiment, and as you saw with my blue and my green opposites that are not opposites, and that's okay, right? It's okay to get it wrong. And so this is the permission to try to experiment, to have fun with it. And if it's wrong, so what? Then you know what it isn't, and you try something else, right? So finding ways to have fun with it and giving yourself that permission, be like, it's okay, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope you didn't mind my playful teasing you about it all.
I know.
So, anyway, so this was great, and you look great in red lipstick. I think that it definitely works for you, and I am looking forward to seeing you get a tutu now. So, all right, peace out, everybody.